Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Devotees who regularly visit ISKCON temples, they learn when they enter to bow down before the deity, before Srila Prabhupada. Something else you can learn is to turn off your cell phone, so that every time we don't have to say, turn off your cell phone. And then, even then, devotees don't turn it off. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Antya Leela, chapter 5, text 48, which is actually from Srimad Bhagavatam, but the reference is not given. I'll just make a note that the reference isn't given. Vikriditang Rajabadhu Viridang cha Vishnu Shradhan Vitonu Shrunuyadatta Varna Yedyaha Vitonu Shrunuyadatta Varna Yedyaha Bhakting Parang Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridrogamashu apahinotya chirena dhiraha. I'm going to read some verses prior to this and after this to give context to it. Rajabodhu Sange Krishna Rashadi Bilash Jajan Kahe Shune Korea Bishash Hridroga Kamatar Tatkale Hoi Koi Tingun Kobanahe Mahadhira Hoi. When one hears or describes with great faith the pastimes of Lord Krishna, such as his rasa dance with the gopis, the disease of lusty desires in his heart, and the agitation caused by the three modes of material nature are immediately nullified, and he becomes sober and silent. Ujjvala madhur prema bhakti shepai anande krishna madhurje vihare shadai. Tasting transcendental, effulgent, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna, such a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day in the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. Vikriridang vrajavadhu biridang cha vishnu shadhan vitornu shrunaya dattavarna yedyaha bhakting param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogam ashvahahinotya chirena dhiraha. Now, the translation of this verse, which we just read. A transcendentally sober person who with faith and love continually hears from a realized soul about the activities of Lord Krishna in his rasa dance with the gopis, or one who describes such activities, can attain full transcendental devotional service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, lusty material desires, which are the heart disease of all materialistic persons, are for him quickly and completely vanquished. Purport: all the activities of Lord Krishna are transcendental, and the gopis are also transcendentally situated. Therefore, the activities of the gopis and Lord Krishna, if seriously understood, will certainly free one from material attachment. Then there is no possibility that material lusty desires will awaken. Jai shune jai pare tar fal etadrishi se bhava vishta jai shebe aharniti. Tar fal ki kohemo kahane na jai nitya siddha she prai siddha tar kai. If a transcendentally situated person following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami hears and speaks about the Rasa-lila dance of Krishna and is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna while serving the Lord day and night within his mind, what shall I say about the result? It is so spiritually exalted that it cannot be expressed in words. Such a person is an eternally liberated associate of the Lord, and his body is completely spiritualized. Although he is visible to materialize, he is spiritually situated, and all his activities are spiritual. By the will of Krishna, such a devotee is understood to possess a spiritual body. So in reading this, we might think that obviously the most intelligent thing to do is just to hear about Krishna's intimate pastimes with the gopis. However, when discussing this verse, on one occasion, Srila Prabhupada gave a warning. The warning was, don't be foolish. And there are innumerable ways to manifest foolishness while living in this world. Just to be in this material world is a symptom of our foolishness. That foolishness manifests in various ways. And one way may be, even in Krishna consciousness, adhikara langhan, to transgress one's eligibility. So this verse, Vikriritam Vrajavadhu Bhiridam Cha Vishnu, this is a fairly well-known verse. It certainly gives an important purport, that by hearing about the pastimes of Krishna with the Vrajavadhus, literally means the wives of Vrindavan, then one can enter into that and become free from kama hridroga, the lust, which is the disease of the heart. So on one occasion, Srila Prabhupada discussed this topic and quoted partially this verse. Srila Prabhupada said, the foolishness is going on that without understanding Krishna, there are so-called rascal foolish poets. They are describing Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. That is the cause of fall down of the so-called Vaishnavism. Without understanding Krishna, they want to understand the pastimes. You'll find in your country also. I have seen one book written by one Bhattacharya about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and the covering page is Radharani's picture naked. So these rascals have made so much havoc, and this book is published by the United Nations. I have seen one book in France. I think some of you might have seen Bhagavan. You have seen? Bhagavan says, Vidyapati, Prabhupada. Anyway, this kind of literature. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to read Gita Govinda, Chandidas, amongst his confidential devotees. Gita Govinda, the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, is not for the neophyte student. You'll find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaching. Generally, he was talking with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was talking with Prakashananda Saraswati. He was talking with Ramananda Rai. But the subject matter was not the same. When he was talking officially with Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, there is no talk about Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. Simply on the basis of Vedanta he was talking. But when he was talking with Ramananda Rai, he talked about Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. So we should be very careful from the very beginning. Just like the professional Bhagavatam readers. The Bhagavat reading means describing Rasa-lila. That means for the professional Bhagavat speakers, this is their topic. Whenever you find there is a Bhagavat reading, they are describing. I have seen one big Goswami. He was a professional Bhagavata reader. And whenever he would speak. Whenever he spoke on Bhagavat, he would speak very nicely on Rasa Leela, and after describing Rasa Leela, Bhagavat reading, he would come for recreation and smoke a cigarette. I have seen it. So this kind of Bhagavata reading will not help you. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktya anyatra syat. If you're actually advancing in devotional service, then the symptom will be that you have no more material hankerings. That is real. So if you actually hear about Krishna's pastimes with Radharani, then hridroga kama apahinoti. That's the quotation from the verse we just read. Then our heart disease, lusty desires will vanish. That is the result. I have repeatedly said. So if you become more lusty by seeing the pastimes of Krishna with Radharani or hearing, that means you are not fit. Stop it. Stop it. Don't be foolish. Yesterday was Sri Nityananda Trayodashi, and among the points discussed then were Nitaya Karuna Habe Braje Radha Krishna Pabe. By the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, one can attain Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. To enter into the transcendental sphere of Vrindavan, one has to become free of attachment to anything material. We have to give up material desires. Bishoy charya kobe shuddha hobe mon tobe hama heribo Sri Vrindavan. Narottam Das says, when I give up materialistic attachment, when I give up material sense gratification, then the mind will be pure and then I can see Vrindavan. That giving up of material desires, which is very difficult, is called here kama hridroga. It is the heart disease of material desire. Physically, heart disease is considered very severe. But the heart disease of material desire will cause us to suffer not only in this life, but life after life. And it also blocks our path to the spiritual world, to Radha and Krishna. By the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, we will get help in giving up material desires. Ar kobe nitai chande karuna hoibe samsara bhashana mo kobe tucha hobe. Narottam Das elsewhere says, he aspires for the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, by which he will get the strength to overcome material attachments. Now, this verse offers a different perspective. That by hearing about the pastimes of Radha Krishna, especially the Vrajavadhupi, that means the Krishna and the gopis, that by hearing that, the heart will become purified. However, in discussing this, Srila Prabhupada cautions us that there are many unscrupulous persons who take pleasure in discussing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, but not in a pure way. By hearing about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, they actually become more lusty. And they misrepresent the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and thus their propensity to themselves engage in male-female relationships increases. Pungsastriya mituni bhavametam tayoraho hridaya grantimahuhu. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. It forms a hard knot in the heart. Ato griha kshetra sutapta vitayar janasya moho yammahammameti. Based on this attraction, a person becomes attached not only to his own body and to his wife, but also he becomes attached to his home, his land, his place of residence, children and relatives and wealth. And this way he thinks in terms of I, me and mine. The attraction between male and female is also the basic principle of spiritual existence. The attraction between Radha and Krishna, or Rukmini Krishna, Satyabhama Krishna, and 16,106 other names. And not only the queens of Dwarka, but all their maidservants, and they're all attracted to Krishna. And Sita Rama, in some colloquial editions of Ramayana, that is described how when Rama went to Ayodhya, naturally not only Sita was attracted to him, but all the young girls of Ayodhya were attracted to him. When Ram went to Janakpur, to the place of Janak, he took Sita from that place which is now called Janakpur. Lakshmi Narayana, there's all male-female attraction that is at the pinnacle of every level of the spiritual world. And that forms a strong bond of attachment between Krishna and his lovers. So Krishna, he also becomes very attached to Vrindavan and to his family members and all the people of Vrindavan and all the cows, Godhan, the wealth of the cows. And in this way, Krishna, who is the all-powerful proprietor of innumerable universes, becomes totally bewildered. His mind becomes totally bewildered by Srimati Radharani, and he totally forgets that his position as God. And just like a man in this world, he may have all power and opulence, but he becomes infatuated by a woman and he feels he cannot be happy without her. And so the attraction between male and female in the spiritual world is totally pure and liberating. But the attraction between male and female in this world is constitutionally impure and binding, and even though it may be religiousized, or it may be made institutionally religious, it is by nature, right? It's putting a religious sheen on something which is actually against our real self-interest, against our real constitutional nature. This extremely powerful form of sexual attraction binds us in this material world. But if we hear of Krishna's pastimes and then we understand that this is real love, not my attempts to love, then we become free from the propensity to try to make ourselves the object of love. And we understand that our love is meant to be directed in service to Krishna. So anushrunayat, one should hear in parampara, being shraddhanvita, being very faithful, means that, as Srila Prabhupada says here, first we should understand who is Krishna. If without properly understanding who is Krishna, we try to hear about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, then we will mistake Krishna to be in the same category as ourselves, without being firmly fixed in the understanding that everyone, including myself, is meant for serving Krishna. Then hearing about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna may agitate our minds, just like people, they read some romantic novel or sexy novel or see some movie with sexual theme, and even if the personalities in the novel are fictitious, which in most cases they are, just the description of it excites the mind of the reader, and he becomes desirous to himself engage in such activities. So the Bhagavatam states that by hearing the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, one's mind will become purified from material lust. But Srila Prabhupada points out in this discussion here that many people, upon hearing this, they don't decrease their lust, they actually increase their lust. That means that they're not hearing properly. Anushrunayat, this Srila Prabhupada describes this anu means following, shrunu means hearing, so Srila Prabhupada describes this as hearing in the parampara system. So if we don't hear from proper devotees, then we will not be, by hearing from them about these pastimes, we will not be purified. Srila Prabhupada speaks about one Bhagavatam reciter who speaks very nicely. Not very much here in South India, but in North India there is a tradition of Bhagavatam reciter by famous or wannabe famous speakers. And they generally become famous because they speak in a very pleasing way. They'll speak about Krishna's pastimes in a way that is very pleasing. Those who speak most pleasingly become the most popular. And Srila Prabhupada here points out that many of these speakers, they themselves are not free from material desires. It's quite clear. Giving the example of a Bhagavatam speaker who speaks very nicely, as if he's relishing the rasa, and it appears that others also by hearing him can relish the rasa of Krishna Bhakti. But then after speaking, the speaker is seen smoking, which indicates that he's not really relishing the highest rasa of Krishna consciousness, because if he was, he wouldn't feel any need for such a low-level gratification as smoking. So if one does not hear from the proper source, from a genuine devotee in Perambur, then one's hearing of Krishna Leela will not result in becoming free from material desire. One's material desire may actually increase. And Shraddhanvitam, if one's level of faith is not sufficiently developed, or if in general one is not very much developed as a devotee, then the result is that by hearing such pastimes, one's instead of one's feelings toward Radha and Krishna being enhanced, one's feelings that I should myself enjoy in the company of the other sex, this will increase. And there are, apart from the Bhagavatam, there are many literary works which describe the intimate details of how Radha and Krishna interact with each other, upon hearing which a person who is not free from the desire to himself experience such activities on the mundane platform, his own mundane desires may increase. Therefore Prabhupada gives this warning. If you become more lusty by seeing the pastimes of Krishna with Radharani or hearing, that means you are not fit. Stop it. And again Srila Prabhupada says, stop it. Don't be foolish. Now it may be that on hearing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, someone becomes more inspired for sense gratification, but he thinks, well, this is spiritual. So by saying don't be foolish, Srila Prabhupada is giving a call for introspection. Am I actually advancing or going backwards? So self-deception is also common. Our whole existence in this material world goes on due to self-deception. So also in the matter of spiritual advancement, there may be self-deception. We may think, I am doing such and such an act for Krishna, but actually it's mixed with or wholly for our own purposes, sensual purposes. So don't be foolish even to accept this instruction. We have to be somewhat sincere to understand what we should do and what we shouldn't do. There may be very good food or medicine, just like ghee, real ghee, which is a very rare thing these days. Real ghee, that is said to be just like amrita, that will give good health and increase our lifespan. But if due to poor digestion we can't digest it, then the same ghee, which is just like nectar, a tonic, it becomes poisonous for us. So there are many descriptions in Ayurveda that how ghee is so very good for health. But there's also the warning that if you can't digest it properly, then not only will it not increase our health, it will make our health worse. So in the same way, although hearing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is the ultimate purifying process, if practically we don't become purified by doing so, we become more lusty, then Srila Prabhupada says, don't be foolish, stop it, stop listening. And Srila Prabhupada was very cautious in this matter. He introduced to the Western world the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But at the same time, he cautioned, be careful. That is our ultimate prayojan, our ultimate desired state. But we have to go step by step carefully. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So Srila Prabhupada said, don't be foolish. In the modern age, this lust is all pervasive. Actually, that's always there in the material world. But in this modern consumeristic society, it is pumped up to an absolutely ridiculous extent. One principal symptom of Kali Yuga is that people's minds are always disturbed. And one main reason for that is that people are programmed to be lusty. Lust simply disturbs the mind. So we can get free from lust by hearing the pastimes of Radha Krishna, but we should be in the proper consciousness also. If we're not ready for that, then Srila Prabhupada warns, stop it, don't be foolish. So that is a call to introspect. There may be various reasons by which, there may be various acts in Krishna consciousness which are inherently favorable for Krishna consciousness, but it may work counteractively against us, contrarily. For instance, we should study Shastra, Srila Prabhupada's books, very deeply. But if by doing so then we become quite learned, and then people start to think we're very learned and a great scholar, and we become proud by doing so, that is foolishness. Or if by taking some responsibility, some position, then we start to think that now I have the opportunity, now everyone should just do whatever I say. Again we become proud, then it's counterproductive. So this doesn't mean that we shouldn't hear about the pastimes of Krishna, or that we shouldn't study Prabhupada's books, or that we shouldn't take responsibility in Krishna's service. This is false renunciation to do so. We should do all these things, but we should be very, very careful that in doing so, we actually become purified and not become proud or lusty. Hearing about Radha Krishna, we can do from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, but we should hear about other pastimes also. We should hear about Krishna's teachings also. There should be a well-rounded and what we can say a sober, balanced approach to Krishna consciousness according to our need. It's not a good idea to try to leap up to the highest standard immediately, only to come crashing down. Rupa Goswami has recommended. Rupa Goswami, who himself is an ambassador of the Vrindavan world, he has recommended a gradual process. Ado shadhatata sadhu sangha atah bhajana kriya tato nartha nivritti sat tato nishta ruchistata atah saktistato bhava tato premabhyudhanshati sadha kanamayam premna sadhur bhave bhavet. Kramaha means step by step. There should be some initial faith, then association with devotees, and engaging in regulated devotional service, becoming free from dirty, unwanted things in the heart, then fixity in devotional service, taste for devotional service, attachment to Krishna and Krishna consciousness. Then there is a feeling, actual feelings for Krishna arise in the heart. Not just sometimes, but always. Then there is pure love of Krishna. So let us follow the guidance of Rupa Goswami as received through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and not be foolish. Nitaya karuna habe braje radha Krishna pabe. If we get the mercy of Nityananda, we will attain to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. But let us become eligible. Mercy means it's coming down. We can't force our way up. Hare Krishna. Any question about this, please?
Some time ago, devotee sent a question on last week, which was quoted Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. And I don't know whether it's verbatim or paraphrase, but states here.
Yeah.
That Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his commentary that even those...
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the commentary that even those who do have lust in the heart, if they hear this, it'll be cleared away. And if you don't believe this, then you don't have faith in devotional service. It's more or less this, yeah.
If you say that he or she must be free from lust to hear this pastime, it's actually an amaprarabdha.
Yeah, if you say you must be free from lust to hear these pastimes, then you're an offender to the whole process of devotional service. Well, the answer is there in what Srila Prabhupada says. If you may not be, there's obviously that says when one will be free from the disease of lust, that one is not, this must apply to people who are not completely free from it. Nevertheless, the warning is there. If you find that the actual result is that you're becoming more lusty, then stop it. And the evidence is given of those people who hear in a wrong way and they don't become free from lust. They become more lusty. How this, as Srila Prabhupada said, this, yeah, I'll just re-quote that, what Srila Prabhupada said. They're describing the pastime, they're describing Krishna's pastimes as Radharani. That is the cause of fall down of the so-called Vaishnavism. So what happened in Bengal in particular, the preponderance of the Prakrita Sahajya cults is evidence that Prakrita Sahajya cults means they're themselves indulging in illicit sex in the name of following Radha and Krishna. So that's evidence that they're not hearing properly. It's the opposite result is there. So clearly there is a question of eligibility, which Srila Prabhupada, he often stressed on. Srila Prabhupada often said, first deserve, then desire. So what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says is not invalidated by these statements of Srila Prabhupada. But there is a question of eligibility also.
They do not hear from a proper source and then they write out. But if one hears from a proper source,
if one hears from a proper source, but that one's own eligibility has to be there also. Srila Prabhupada was a proper source for hearing about Radha and Krishna, but he didn't talk except in a very guarded way about those pastimes. Here in Chennai, there was the High Court judge and his wife. They were insisting to Srila Prabhupada that you please tell us about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. We're very eager to hear. And Prabhupada, he said, no, there's a question of eligibility. But they kept on saying, no, we're eligible. We're ready. And then Prabhupada said, well, I'm not eligible to speak. He refused. In Bhubaneswar, there was a film being made of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And Prabhupada, they wanted Prabhupada to inaugurate that Prabhupada had come there. He's the greatest preacher of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult in the world. Prabhupada was very, you could say, rough with them. He refused. Actually, there was was it a book or was it a book? And Prabhupada, he was called to the ceremony, so Prabhupada went there and he just gave a regular speech on Krishna consciousness. And they said, well, what about the book? You're supposed to talk about the book. And then Prabhupada said, yes, here's the book. It's inaugurated. He refused to speak. And then afterward, people came to him and said, no, we want to do this, it's for giving people and all. And Prabhupada he was quite rough with them. He refused. He said, it's not for the common people. So hearing such pastimes are, of course, not wholly proscribed or forbidden, but it's not a subject for open discussion. Only devotees who have actually reached to that level. But then everyone will think, well, we always tend to overestimate our level. Or even if we are on the highest level, people are going to hell. We have a lot of work. in trying to save them and lift them up to the human platform and beyond that to Krishna consciousness. Yeah, okay. I'll take one.
By doing devotional service, how we can discriminate?
By doing what?
Devotional service, by touching the Guru. And how we can discriminate what do you say that we enjoy something himself, sometimes the self-promotion is going on in the life of the devotional service. Where we promote himself, how we can discriminate what the difference between proper engagement and this.
Can you rephrase that question so I could understand it? How can we know what is actual devotional service and what isn't? Is that the question?
You say in Jackson that we under devotional service we self.
Yeah, there should be some introspection.
Yeah.
Well, that's the warning. We may not be able to. We may not be able to properly distinguish because our intelligence isn't clear. In such a case, we should be better to be cautious than reckless. Go and sit down and listen. If you're not sure, then don't take the risk. If you're healthy, ghee will be very beneficial for you. If not, it might kill you. So I'm not sure whether I'm healthy or not. Should I take it or not? Don't take it. Act under the direction of the doctor so that you can come to the level of being healthy enough to take it. The analogy should be clear. You may think, well, I'm going to die soon and I'm still struggling with material desire, so why don't I just try for it and go for it? Well, we may not attain in one lifetime. But if we give ourselves to the service of the mission of the Acharyas, then we can expect the mercy to come down. If you're asking how do we discriminate, that means you don't know. You're not in a position. Then you have to hear, study, serve. Clear intelligence should be the sign of someone who's becoming actually advanced in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. Hare Krishna.